Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be here with you today in Vienna, and I brought you a little gift to start with. Here's a word, if it is working. Well, anyway, here's a word that you may hear often these days. Polarization, as in polarized society. Now that is a big and abstract word, isn't it? Well, I checked the dictionary. It says polarization means the division of something into two opposites. I wonder, is polarization something we can actually see with our eyes? Well, if things go wrong fast, polarization may end up looking like it did here in the German town of Chemnitz in the year 2018. After a deadly incident, the town was rocked by anti-immigration protests and riots, as well as counter-protests for days. Now, what about our ears? Can we hear what polarization sounds like? Well, to judge from the picture, it must be pretty loud, right? But that is not entirely true. Polarization can also be terribly silent. Silent when tension between people grows so strong that they no longer feel comfortable enough to talk openly to one another about political or social issues. When they start keeping their opinions to themselves. When dialogue dies. Over the last months, I visited civil society volunteers in towns across Germany. These people spend their days working to hold their municipalities together. And they told me how difficult it has actually become on a local level to reach out to people and to spark a conversation. And this made me realize that polarization is nothing abstract at all. It's nothing abstract that we only see on a national level in big politics. It happens just the same way in towns and villages. We can feel the division everywhere. More in Common, the organization I work with, was founded in 2017 to help overcome the division we see today in our countries. We are currently present as an international initiative in Germany, in France, in the United Kingdom, and the United States. And our goal is to strengthen once again the common ground in our countries that we as people can share, where we can come together. Yet to do so, we first need to gain a deeper understanding of what is actually going on in our countries. What is driving people apart? Where does all this division, this feeling of division come from? Well, to find out, we conduct research on a national level, but we also listen to people in towns across our countries, and we learn with and from our partners in places big and small. Today, I would like to share with you 3 of our most crucial findings as to polarization and division. And not just any findings, but 3 findings that challenge some of the all too easy assumptions that we as human beings like so much whenever we need to make sense of what is going on around us. Well, you know, easy assumptions are comfortable, but they can be dangerous. Sometimes they keep us from looking closely enough, and sometimes they may even make things worse, especially when it comes to polarization. Now, the first assumption I would like to challenge is the idea that polarization takes place between neat categories of people. The old versus the young, the rich versus the poor, the educated versus the uneducated, the rural versus the urban. Things are not just that simple. In our research, pretty much everything suggests that in order to understand today's situation, these basic categories cannot fully explain the extent of polarization, what is going on. So when it comes to the people we see in our towns and villages, we should not simply judge and sort them by their cover, that is, their age, their education, their income. Things are more complicated than that when we want to understand what is going on. I will give you more information on this in a couple of minutes. The second assumption I would like to challenge is the idea that polarization or division cuts through society like a knife, sharply and right through the middle, with 50% on one side of the divide and 50% on the other. Now, admittedly, this 50-50 idea seems fed by a lot of evidence over the last years. Just think of Brexit. Think of presidential elections wherever you look. 50-50 it often is, isn't it? But the 50-50 idea as such may develop a life of its own. Just imagine the way it makes us view the situation in our towns and villages. Almost automatically, we picture two strong camps, equal size, fiercely opposing each other on the municipal battleground, right? It's the cosmopolitans versus the nationalists. It's us versus them. It's all black or white. There's no room left for nuance. Now, our findings once again suggest otherwise. If you really look at people's attitudes close up, you see a lot, and I mean a lot, of gray between the black and the white. Even and especially when it comes to the hot issues of our time, such as migration or climate change. So actually, there is room for nuance. Yes, there are people with extreme views at the ends of the spectrum, but actually most people do hold mixed or even contradictory views. Some people do not hold views at all. They're out of the game. So we need to take a closer look. The third and final thing I would like to challenge is our widespread tendency to view people who do not share our own values as somehow bad, ill-intentioned, or somehow deficient. This happens a lot as it's part of human psychology, but it fuels polarization. And in most cases, it is also simply wrong or mistaken. I will give you an example. Just imagine going to an art museum with a bunch of people. You're all standing in front of a single painting, and you try to figure out what is in it. But here's the thing. By chance, all of you are wearing glasses, and not just any glasses, but different kinds of glasses. Some of them are tinted gray, some of them are tinted blue, some of them distort vision to the left, some of them distort vision to the right. Now guess what will happen? The picture, the painting will look different to every single one of you, and you will start fighting about what is in it. And at some point, you will think that your companions are either crazy, blind, or both. But tell me, who is right, objectively, in the end? In our research at More in Common, we try to find out about the glasses that we as people wear every day without noticing. And I mean this figuratively, of course. We try to find out about the ideals, the beliefs, the morals, and the fears people have, for they are important. They shape the way we look at society, we perceive reality. And through our research, we are able to show how in our countries there exist people with different glasses, with different lenses or outlooks on society. This is for the United States, for instance. And how none of them, I repeat, none of them, has a majority of their own. And how in the end, there's no real alternative to a little empathy, to a little working together across different value systems. What I have been trying to say is this. The feelings of division we feel today in our society do not follow a natural law. They are not inevitable. Yes, there are factors that put under societies under a lot of pressure, such as globalization or cultural change. And yes, people do have different values, attitudes, and mindsets as to these issues. So yes, friction as such is quite logical and is also normal. But the extent of polarization we see today has a lot to do also with our mutual misperceptions that remain unchallenged for too long, with our mutual judgments about one another that are being made too quickly. and with a dialogue that ends too soon. And that is an actual pity. For we at More in Common do firmly believe that at the end of the day, we as people have more in common than what divides us. Dear participants, I would like to end on a positive and optimistic note. And that optimism has a lot to do with the role towns and villages play when it comes to social cohesion, when we have already heard a lot of precious information on that. And our findings also show, just the same way, that even in times as troubled as these, most people feel bound to the place they live in by strong feelings of belonging. And our data also shows that bonds of trust, be it toward politicians, citizens, or institutions, are nowhere stronger than on the local level. And in our countries, most people actually do crave for a new sense of togetherness. Nobody likes division, or hardly anybody. So it is up to towns and villages, because they are the very fabric these countries are made of. And in the end, they can make all the difference. Thank you very much.